right, gang. Copy. Paste. Now. And let me check to make sure that we are on Facebook. Let me just... We are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube simultaneamente. That's Spanish for simultaneously. All right, I think we are ready to go. And good to see everybody. And right now we will find some song to chant. Obviously, some Vaishnav song. Okay. Here's a nice song, the first one I picked. It's Shri Radhika Stava. Okay, we've got the guitar. Uh-oh. Wonder what happened to my capo. It's not here. Anyway, we'll deal without it. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Gokula Tarani Mandala Maite. Gokula Tarani Mandala Maite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Damodari Padana Veshe Adina Skutavena Vipineshe. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Vishamanudane Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishoke. Vishamanudane Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishoke. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Korum Korum Mai Karuna Bhadate Sanata Sanatana Vanita Julite. Karunam Korumae Karuna Bhadate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Julite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhva Saite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Saraswati Devi Govapani Pacharine Nivasesha Shunyavadi Ashachani Zatare Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Siva Sati Gaurata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Sati Gaurata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Divo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Nijago, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Hare Bo, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramacharya. Also tell us it's Shimad, it's divine grace. Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapatat Shai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shivani Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Haribol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhule Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nevashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarne. So Om Gana Timbiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, we're going to continue with our study of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Just one note. Tomorrow's class will be on Lord Nrsingadev, since it's Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, he's the half-man, half-lion incarnation of the Lord. The Lord appears in all the various species of life, and also he makes up his own species. He can combine, mix and match, as they say, the different species, so he can appear in any way he pleases. Okay, so now we'll go on to the Caitanya Charitamrita, and we're going to continue with the story of Sakshi Gopal. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, let me fill you up to date with the story. So yesterday we brought the story up to the point where the young Brahmana defeats Krishna, Gopal, in an argument, because the younger Brahmana wants Krishna to witness the marriage promise of the older Brahmana. And so, therefore, the younger Brahmana has an argument with Krishna. And Krishna says, just remember me, everything will be all right, cool it. And the younger Brahmana says, no, it won't. You have to come yourself. And the deity, Krishna, says, how's that possible? Whoever heard of a deity walking? Because at that time they didn't have airplanes for the deities to ride in. And the younger Brahmana said, that is true. We never heard of a deity walking, but we never heard of a deity talking, and today you are talking, so you can walk. And in this way, he defeated the Lord. Also, he mentioned to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the deity form that anybody who witnesses something and he doesn't testify or doesn't correct a situation that's sinful is also subject to those same karmic reactions. So he's threatening the Lord. Not actually true that the Lord would ever be subjected to karmic reactions, because the Lord's not under the law of karma. The Lord has a spiritual body. The Lord controls karma. He controls the time factor. But this is the exchange between the devotee and the Lord, in which the devotee thinks that Krishna is his friend, and, he's just a regular person, but, really attractive. And Krishna is thinking he's a regular person, so this way he can get defeated. So here the deity is responding to the Brahmin, telling the younger Brahmin how it's going to happen, that he's going to walk across India. And it's a long walk, all the way from Vrindavan to Vijayanagara. Tremendous walk. I don't think I've walked so far, and I'm not a deity. So, Nu Purara Dwani Matra Amara Shunibha Seshabde Amara Gamana Pratita Kariba. You will know that I'm walking behind you by the sound of my ankle bells. Wow. Eka Sera Anarandi Kariha Samarpanta Taha Kanak Tomara Sange Kariba Gamana. Cook 1 kilo of rice daily and offer it. I shall eat that rice and follow behind you. It's a lot of rice, a whole kilo of rice. That was a hungry deity. Aradina Agdamagi Chalila Brahmana Tarapache Pache Gopala Karila Gamana. The next day, the Brahmana begged permission from Gopal and started for his country. Gopala followed him step by step. Nuparera dwani shuni anandita manha uttamana pakakari karaya bhojana. While Gopal followed the young Brahmana, the tinkling sound, that's onomatopoetic, because the word sounds like what it means. There's many words that sound like what they mean, like tinkling or meow for a cat, or bow wow for a dog. These are onomatopoetic words, so just remember that. The tinkling sound of his ankle bells. Bells also onomatopoetic to a certain extent. Bells, sort of rings, could be heard. The Brahmana became very pleased, and he cooked first-class rice for Gopala to eat. E mate chali vipra nija deshi haila gramera nikata hasi manete chintila. The young Brahmana walked and walked in this way until he eventually arrived in his own country. When he neared his own village, he began to think as follows. Ebe muni grame oinu yamu vavana lokera karibagia sakshira agamana. I have now come to my village, and I shall go to my home and tell all the people that the witness has arrived. Sakshati na dekile mane pratiti na hoiha ihan yari rakhena tabu nahi kichu baiha. The Brahmana then began to think that if the people didn't directly see the Gopal deity, they would not believe that he had arrived. But even if Gopala stays here, he thought, there's nothing to fear, still nothing to fear. Eta babi se vipra puriya chahila Hashinya Gopala Deva Tataya Rahila. Thinking this, the Brahmana turned to look back, and he saw that Gopala, the supreme personality of Godhead, was standing there smiling. Brahmanere kahi tumiya nijagara itaya rahi bahami nayaba atapara. The Lord told the Brahmana, now you can go home. I shall stay here and shall not leave. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. Tabe se viprayai nagare kahila shunina sakaloka chamatkara hela. The young Brahmin then went to the town and informed all the people about Gopala's arrival. Hearing this, the people were struck with wonder. Chamatkara. Aila sakala loka sakshi dekhi bare Gopala dekhi na loka dandavat kare. All the townspeople went to see the witness Gopal, and when they saw the Lord actually standing there, they all offered their respectful obeisances. I mean, it's a big deity. It's not that this Brahmin carried the deity. He couldn't have been able to do that. The deity is quite big. It's like life-size. Gopala Sundarya Deki Loke Anandita Pratima Chalina Haila Shunina Vismita. When the people arrived, they were very pleased to see the beauty of Gopala, and when they heard that he had actually walked there, they were all surprised. Tabe se bada vipra anandita hanga Gopalera hage pare dandavatana. Then the elderly Brahmana, being very pleased, came forward and immediately fell like a stick in front of Gopala. Sakala lokera hage Gopala sakshi dilha bada vipra chota vipre kanyadana koela. Thus, in the presence of all the townspeople, Lord Gopal bore witness that the elderly Brahmin had offered his daughter in charity to the young Brahmana. Tabe se dvi vipre karila ishvara tumi dvi janme janme amara king kara. After the marriage ceremony was performed, The Lord informed both Brahmanas, "You two Brahmanas are my eternal servants, birth after birth." Like these two Brahmanas of Vijayanagara, there are many devotees who are eternal servants of the Lord. They are specifically known as Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. Although the Nitya Siddhas appear in the material world and seem to be common members of the world, they never forget the Supreme Personality of God in any condition. This is the symptom of a Nitya Siddha. Prabhupada actually said, there was never a time when I forgot Krishna. There are two kinds of living entities, Nitya Siddha and Nitya Bada. Nitya Bada means eternal, bound, a condition. The Nitya Siddha never forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality, whereas the Nitya Bada, Nitya means eternal, of course, is always conditioned even before the creation. He always forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here the Lord informs the two Brahmanas that they are his servants birth after birth. The phrase birth after birth refers to the material world because in the spiritual world there's no birth, death, old age, or disease. Excuse me. By the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Nitya Siddha remains within this material world like an ordinary man, but the only business of the Nitya Siddha is to broadcast the glories of the Lord. This incident appears to be an ordinary story about a marriage transaction involving two ordinary people. However, Krishna accepted the two Brahmanas as his eternal servants. Both Brahmanas took much trouble in these negotiations, just like mundane people. Yet they were acting as eternal servants of the Lord. All Nitya Siddhas within this material world may appear to toil like ordinary men, but they never forget their position as servants of the Lord. Another point. The elderly Brahmana belonged to an aristocratic family, was learned and wealthy. The young Brahmana belonged to an ordinary family, was uneducated. But these mundane qualifications do not concern a Nitya Siddha engaged in the service of the Lord. We have to accept the fact that the Nitya Siddhas are completely distinct from the Nitya Bhadas, who are ordinary human beings. Srila Narottam Das Thakur confirms this statement. Gorangera Sangi Gane Nitya Siddha Karimane Sayaya Brajendra Sutta Pasha Shigora Mandala Bhumi Yeva Jane Chintamane Tarahaya Brajabhume Vasa. One who accepts the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Siddhas is certain to be elevated to the spiritual kingdom to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. One should also know that Gauda Mandala Bhumi, those places in Bengal where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed, are equal to Brajabhumi or Vrindavan. There is no difference between the inhabitants of Vrindavana and those of Gauda Mandala Bhumi or Sridhamma Mayapur. Now, one interesting point is, as Prabhupada makes the point so succinctly in the purport, that if someone is a Nitya Siddha, we don't make the distinction between someone who is educated or uneducated, because if they're Nitya Siddha, then they know the science of Krishna. They can be accepted as Guru. Say Guru Hoy, Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyashi. Shudra Kena Noi, Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, Say Guru Hoy. As Lord Chaitanya says, whether one is learned or not learned, whether it's a sannyasi or a householder, whether one is born in a Shudra family, if one knows the science of Krishna, then that person is a guru. Now, in the case of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, guess who he accepted as his initiating guru? That was Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was not born in a Brahmin family. He was like a Vaishya. He was actually a Vaishya, like a grain merchant, before he renounced this world. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was married before, was a grain merchant, practically speaking illiterate. He couldn't read Sanskrit. He could read Bengali, but not Sanskrit. Practically speaking illiterate, and when his wife died, he took sannyas and took up the Babaji order. And he's an Nityasiddha devotee of the Lord, and he initiated Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who came from a very high-class family, highly educated. Prabhupada described Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as a living encyclopedia. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur learned languages, especially English, by memorizing the dictionary. So he was using words in his purports, commentaries, translations that even most of us wouldn't understand. Even Prabhupada said that there were some words that he was using. And I remember the first time I read Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on the Brahma Samhita, I had a lot of trouble. In fact, I had to consult a dictionary. Of course, now I'm a little more educated than I was when I was 20 years old, but now I can understand. But it's a little slow in reading these commentaries by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because they're filled with really big words. Yet he took initiation from Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj, who was basically almost functionally illiterate. I mean, like I said, he could read Bengali, but no Sanskrit. So imagine an acharya who could not read Sanskrit. And basically, his books were the songs of Narottama Das Thakur and other books in Bengali. And, it's not that he could quote a whole bunch of Sanskrit verses in the Gita. And probably, if he came to ISKCON today, and they tried to give him a Bhakti Shastri exam, he would not have passed the exam. But he was the best of all the gurus. So we really have to rethink what we mean as far as a spiritual master is concerned. And the qualities of a spiritual master are Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, someone who's always fixed in the service of the Lord, someone who's heard nicely from his spiritual master, and someone who is understanding himself to always be a servant of his spiritual master, and a servant of the disciplic succession, and ultimately a servant of a servant of a servant of the Lord, who maintains the gopis in Vrindavan. Very, very important point. So, anyway, this is one question. How do we understand Nityasiddha devotees stay in the material world? They stay to help you, Prabhu. They help you control Vacho Begam, Manasa Karoda Begam, Jiva Begam, Udara Pashta Begam. What do they help you control? By serving Krishna, your words, your tongue, your belly, your genitals, and Kroda, anger. Anyway, that's from the Upadeshamrita. Let's continue. Dunhara Satchi Tushta Hilan Dunhe Magavara Dvivi Pravara Mage Ananda Anantara. Was it Anantara or Antara? No, Antara, sorry. The Lord continued, I become very much pleased by the truthfulness of you both. Now you can ask for benediction. Thus, with great pleasure, the two brahmanas beg for benediction. You can probably guess what it is. Yadi varadibe tabe raha sistane estane kinkare re daya taba sarvaloke jane. The brahmanas said, please remain here so that people all over the world will know how merciful you are to your servants. Wow. Such a benediction. Gopala Rahila Dunhe Karina Sevana Dekite Aila Saba Dishera Lokajana. Lord Gopal stayed, and the two brahmanas engaged in his service. After hearing of the incident, many people from different countries began to come to see Gopala. Say Dishera Raja Ailascharya Shunina Paramasantosha Paila Gopale Dekina. Eventually, the king of that country heard this wonderful story, and he also came to see Gopala, and thus became satisfied. Mandira Kariya Raja Seva Chalaila Sakshi Gopala Bali Tanra Nama Kyati Hoila. The king constructed a nice temple and regular service was executed. Gopala became famous, or very famous, under the name of Sakshi Gopala, the witness Gopala. Hey Mata Vijayanagare Sakshi Gopala Sevangi Karakari Achena Chirakala. Thus Sakshi Gopala stayed in Vijayanagara and accepted service for a very long time. This city of Vijayanagara is situated in Trilanga Desha, South India, on the bank of the river Godavari. Place where the Godavari flows into the Bay of Bengal is called Kota Desha. The Orissa kingdom was very powerful, and Kota Desha was the capital of Orissa. Wow. It was then known as Vijayanagara. Formerly, this city was situated on the southern side of the river Godavari. At that time, King Purushottama Deva managed to control Orissa and appoint a government. The present city of Vijayanagara is on the southeast side of the river, only 20 to 25 miles from Rajamundry. Wow. During the time of Maharaj Prataparudra, Sri Ramananda Roy was the governor there. Vijayanagara is not identical with Vijayanagara. Of course, in Rajamundry, a famous pastime took place. Not only was Ramananda Roy, not only was Ramananda Roy in charge of that area under the jurisdiction of the king, Purushottama Dev, but that's where Ramananda Roy met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and had this famous discourse with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's called the Ramananda Samvada, the talks between Ramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in which the highest aspects of the Absolute Truth were brought out. It's a very, very important place, and there's a beautiful ISKCON temple there. Very, very gorgeous temple there. The temple is actually elevated because it's near the river, so it won't flood. So it's an elevated temple, and there's like an elevated walkway surrounding the temple, and there's different cupolas in that elevated walkway that are displaying different pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Dasha avatars. And the temple is very, very beautiful. Beautiful Radha Krishna deities there. And several times I've been there, and I've actually given a class at the temple, evening class one time. Utkalera Raja Purushottama Deva Nama Sedesha Jini Nila Kariya Sangrama. Later there was a fight, and this country was conquered by King Purushottama Deva of Orissa. Se Raja Jini Nilatanra Singhasana Manikya Singhasana Dama Aneka Ratana. The king was victorious over the king of Vijayanagara, and he took possession of his throne. The Manikya Singhasana is a jeweled throne, actually, which was bedecked with many jewels. That's why it's called a Manikya Singhasana. Singhasana, Singhasana. Singha means lion. Asana means a seat. So the lion seat, or the lion throne. And you see in many cases in India, especially in Orissa, you'll see lions at the gate of many temples, and also if there's a big seat for an acharya or a big singasana for the deities, sometimes there'll be lions carved in it. So it's called the Singhasana, the lion throne. In Manikya means the jeweled lion throne. Purushottama Deva Sevada Bhakta Harya Gopala Charane Mage Chalamora Raja. King Purushottama Deva was a great devotee and was advanced in the civilization of the Aryans. He begged at the lotus feet of Gopala Please come to my kingdom. Wow, that is intelligent. Tanra bhakti vashe gopala tanre hakda dila gopala lahiya se katake kaila. When the king begged him to come to his kingdom, Gopala, who was already obliged for his devotional service, accepted his prayer. Thus, the king took the Gopala deity and went back to Katak. Jagannathe anitila manikya singhasana Katake Gopala seva karila stapana. After winning the Manikya throne, remember that's the jeweled throne, King Purushottama Dev took it to Jagannath Puri and presented it to Lord Jagannath. In the meantime, he also established regular worship of the Gopala deity at Kataka. That's very interesting. So that Purushottama Dev was such a great devotee, he did not take the throne for himself. He actually took the throne for the Lord. That shows his devotion. All right, next verse. Tanhara mahishi aila gopala darshane bhakti kari bahu alankara kaila samarpane. When the Gopal deity was installed at Kataka, the queen of Purushottama Deva went to see him and with great devotion presented various kinds of ornaments. She was also a great devotee because she wanted to present all the ornaments. Normally the ladies want to decorate their own bodies with ornaments. They loved to shop and they loved to comb their hair. And they loved to put pearls and nose rings and earrings and tongue rings and everything like that. So, Tanharana sate bahumulya muktahaya tahadite chahila manete chintaya. The queen had a very valuable pearl, which she wore on her nose, and she wished to give it to Gopala. She then began to think as follows. Takurera nasate yari chidra takita tabe dasi mukta Nasaya Puraita. If there were a hole in the deity's nose, I could transfer the pearl to him. Eta Chinti Namaskari Gela Savavane Ratri Sheshe Gopala Tanre Kahenas Swapane. Considering this, the queen offered her obeisances to Gopala and returned to her palace. That night she dreamed that Gopala appeared and began to speak to her as follows. Balyakali Matahomora Nasa Chidara Koti Mukta Paranachila Bahuyatna Koti. During my childhood, my mother made a hole in my nose and with great endeavor set a pearl there. Se chidra adyapiha achayena sate se mukta parahayaha chahiyache yachasa yachadite. That very hole is still there, and you can use it to set the pearl you desired to give me. Swapne deki serani rajake kahila Rajasaha Muktalana Mandire Aela. After dreaming this, the queen explained it to her husband, the king. Both the king and the queen then went to the temple with the pearl. And it's said that you should give the very best thing to the deities. Normally, we give things that we don't need to the deities. And there's an interesting, funny story what happened in San Francisco one time. After Lord Jagannath was installed, Prabhupada said everybody should give what's most dear to them, to the deities. And one person gave his blue jeans to the deities. Those are dungarees, in case you don't know what blue jeans are. They're just blue color. So, of course, we don't dress the deities with blue jeans. Paraila mukta nasaya chidra de kinda Mahamahotsava Kaila Anandita. Seeing the hole in the nose of the deity, they set the pearl there and, being very pleased, held a great festival. Se haite gopalera katakete stiti elagi sakshi gopala namahaila kyati. Since then, Gopala has been situated in the city of Katak, and he has been known ever since as Sakshi Gopal. Nityananda Mukeshuni Gopala Charita Tushtahila Mahaprabhu Swabhakta Sahita. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the narration of Gopala's activities. Both he and his personal devotees became very, very pleased. Gopalera Agayabe Prabhura Hayastiti Bhakta Gani De Kayena Dunhe Eka Murti. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting before the Gopal deity, all the devotees saw him and the deity as being of the same form. Dunhe Ek Varna Dunhe Rakhanda Sharira Dunhe Raktambara Dunhara Swabhava Gambira. They were the same complexion and both had gigantic bodies. Both wore saffron cloth and both were very grave. Mahati Jumaya Dune Kamala Nayanha Dunhara Bhava Vesha Dunhe Chandra Vadana. Devotees saw that both Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gopala were brilliantly effulgent and had eyes like lotuses. They were both absorbed in ecstasy, and both their faces resembled full moons. Dunha Deki Nityananda Prabhu Maharange Taratari Karihase Bhakta Gana Sunge. When Nityananda saw that the Gopal deity and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that way, he began to exchange remarks with the devotees, all of whom were smiling. Hey Mata Maharange Seiratri Vanchiha Prabhati Chalila Mangala Arati Dekina. Thus, with great pleasure, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night in the temple. After seeing the Mangala Arati ceremony in the morning, he started on his journey. Bhuvaneshvara Bhakte Yaichi Kaila Darashana Vistare Varniyachena Dasa Brindavana. In his book Caitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Thakur has very vividly described the places visited by the Lord on the way to Bhuvaneshwar. Bhuvaneshwar is actually described as Gupta Kashi, it means hidden Kashi. In his book Caitanya Bhagavat Anchakanda, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has very nicely described the Lord's journey en route to Katak. On that journey, the Lord visited a place known as Balihoshta, or Balakati Shati. He then visited the city of Bhuvaneshwara, where Lord Shiva's temple is located. The temple of Bhuvaneshwara is situated about 5 to 6 miles from Balakati Shati. The temple of Lord Shiva is mentioned in the Skanda Purana in the narration about the Lord's garden and the one mango tree. A king named Kashiraj wanted to fight with Lord Krishna, and consequently he took shelter of Lord Shiva to acquire the power to fight the Lord. Being pleased with his worship, the story is in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam too. Being pleased with his worship, Lord Shiva helped him fight Krishna. Lord Shiva's name is Ashutosh, which indicates that he is very easily satisfied when one worships him, regardless of the purpose. And he gives his devotee whatever benediction the devotee wants. Therefore, people are generally very fond of worshipping Lord Shiva. Thus, Kashi Raja was helped by Lord Shiva, but in the fight with Lord Krishna, he was not only defeated but killed. In this way, the weapon known as Pashu Patastra was baffled, and Krishna set fire to the city of Kashi with a Sudarshan chakra. Actually, there was a demon created, and the demon was supposed to attack Dwarka, and then the demon was chased away by the Sudarshan Chakra. The demon actually went back to Kashi, and the Sudarshan Chakra killed the demon and also destroyed Kashi, set fire to Kashi. Later, Lord Shiva became conscious of his mistake in helping Kashi Raja, and he begged Lord Krishna's forgiveness. As a benediction from Lord Krishna, he received a place known as Caitanya Kanana. Later, the kings of the Keshari dynasty established their capital there, and for many hundreds of years they reigned over the state of Orissa, and that's Bhuvaneshwara. Kamala Purayasi Marginadhi Snana Koila Nichananda Hate Prabhu Danda Darila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Kamalapura, he took his bath in the Bargi Nadi River, and left his sannyas staff in the hands of Lord Nityananda. Now we can hear what Lord Nityananda does, which really aggravates Lord Chaitanya. So Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Bhagavat on Chakanda chapter 2, it is said that when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Sri Bhuvaneshwara, he visited the temple of Lord Shiva known as Gupta Kashi, concealed Varanasi. Concealed Kashi, Varanasi, same thing. Lord Shiva established this as a place of pilgrimage by bringing water from all the holy places and creating a lake known as Bindu Sarovara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath in this lake, feeling a great regard for Lord Shiva. From the spiritual point of view, people still go to take a bath in this lake. Actually, by taking a bath there, one becomes very healthy, even from the material viewpoint. Taking a bath and drinking the water of this lake can cure any disease of the stomach. Regular bathing certainly cures indigestion. The river Bargi, or Bargi Nadi, came to be known as the Danda Banga Nadi, after Lord Chaitanya bathed in its waters. That means the broken Danda. Anyway, it is situated 6 miles north of Jagannath Puri. For this reason, or the reason for the change in names, is given as follows. And now we're going to hear the reason for the change in names. All due to the fault of Lord Nityananda. Kapoteshvara Dekite, Gela Bhakta Gana Sanghe, Eta Nityananda Prabhu, Kaila Danda Vange, Tina Kanda Kari Danda, Dilaba Sanya, Bhakta Sanghe Aila Prabhu, Mahesha Dekinda. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Lord Shiva known as Kapalteshvara, Nityananda Prabhu, who was keeping his sannyasa staff in custody, broke the staff in 3 parts and threw it into the river Barginadi. Later this river became known as the Danda Banga Nadi, in reference to the Danda that was broken. The mystery of the sannyas Danda staff of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been explained by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the order of sannyas from a Mayavadi sannyasi. The Mayavadi sannyasis generally carry 1 staff or Danda. That's impersonalism. Taking advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's absence, Srila Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff into 3 parts and threw it into the river, later known as the Danda Bhanga Nadi. In the sannyasa order, there are 4 divisions: Kutichak, Bahudak, Hangsa, and Paramahamsa. Only when the sannyasi remains in the Kutichak and Bahudak platforms can he carry a staff. Very interesting instructions here. However, when one is elevated to the status of Hangsa or Paramahamsa after touring and preaching the bhakti cult, he must give up the sannyas staff. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is therefore said, Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. 2 personalities, Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, are combined in the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In other words, Sri Krishna, Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. They're non-different. Therefore, considering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be an extraordinary person, Nityananda, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, did not wait for the Paramahamsa stage. Lord Chaitanya is always Paramahamsa. He reasoned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is automatically on the Paramahamsa stage. Therefore, he does not need to carry the sannyasa danda. This is the reason Sri Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff into 3 pieces and threw it into the water. And also, the 3 pieces indicated the Tri Danda, because Lord Chaitanya was walking around with an Eka Danda, means 1 stick. Tri Danda means body, mind, words, 3, engaged in the one Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so I've mentioned many times before, I have a Tri Danda. I don't walk around with it anymore. And not that I'm proclaiming myself to be a Paramahansa, but I'm not in the Bahudak or Kutichak stages anymore. Thank God. I'm a little old for that stuff. Okay, so on that happy note, we're going to allow some questions about this story. And some of you should ask questions who haven't asked questions before. Hold on a second. I have to unmute you. You could ask questions in the chat window, too, if you happen to be a little shy. Okay. Who has questions? So who hasn't asked questions normally? Not Rakesh. So someone should ask questions who doesn't often ask questions. No one?
Hi Krishna, Gurudev.
Okay. Okay. Nikunjavasini. So what question do you have?
How do you meditate the fact that if you experience some of these pastimes, how to work with them?
Good question. How do you meditate on these pastimes? You feel some of these pastimes. You meditate them on your heart, and externally you act like a regular person. Actually, Prabhupada said this, not Prabhupada, sorry. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this to Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami was always trying to run away from home because he wanted to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And every time he tried to run away from home, he got caught by his father's guards who brought him back. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't act like a madman. You should act like a lady who has a paramour. In other words, paramour means that one has some other thing going on in their lives that you can't let anyone know about. So in other words, a devotee should be a perfect gentleman or a perfect lady and be normal. In other words, when we go out in the street, don't start rolling on the ground in ecstasy because you're chanting the holy names and feeling quivering in your body in a kind of spiritual trance and your hairs are standing on end. Don't do that. You act normally. Everybody should act like a normal person of this world. That's how Prabhupada acts. Perfect gentleman, normal person of this world. And that's how one integrates all these different pastimes. How can someone be eternally conditioned? Good question. Eternally, not in the sense like there is no chance. It means it's been so long, it seems like forever. It's not, or unless something's done, it will be eternal. There's 2 ways to understand that. Unless someone saves me, it will be eternal. Another one is, it's been so long. You've been down so long, it looks like up to me, as they say. That you've been, it's a long time. Sometimes the word eternal or nitya is actually used in a figurative sense rather than a actual literal sense. Figurative means like it's long. Just like, how long have I been here because of COVID? Forever. That's what I tell people. How long have I been trapped here, not being able to travel because of this COVID virus? I said, I've been here forever, which isn't actually true. Because if I had been here forever, that would have been possible, because I would have to be in the same body or same place eternally. So we use this Sometimes there's expressions like that. So in other words, there's always a chance. And to become unconditioned, then there's several different ways. One is Kripa Siddhi. Just like in the university, you can get an honorary degree. Very rare. Someone could say, I give you an honorary doctorate of philosophy. And then you can go around telling everybody I'm a PhD. That's called Kripa Siddhi. You get some special mercy. Kripa means mercy. Another way is Sadhana Siddhi. Sadhana Siddhi means you just practice a lot. Like going to the university, you go through all those years of postgraduate work, and finally you're there at the commencement, and you put on a gown, and they put this stupid hat on your head, and then they say, you are now, and you take a little tassel and put from one side to another. I don't know if any of you know what I'm talking about, but some of you may. And then you say, you have a PhD, piled higher and deeper. So anyway, so that's another way, Kripa Siddhi or Sadhana Siddhi. Anyway, those are the two ways that I know of. Nitya Siddhi means you never fell down. Usually for most of us, it's a combination. It has to be a combination, basically. Combination means that we actually work hard, but we also got mercy too, because you can't storm the kingdom of God by your own mercy or by your own work. You can't do that. You need the mercy. You need the kripa. So it's really both things. I mean, just practically speaking, it's a mixture of Kripa Siddhi and Sadhana Siddhi. That means you become liberated. And once you become liberated, then it's also eternal liberation. Because it's eternal. So sometimes we take these words literally, but eternal is eternal. Once you're there. And another point is, at one point we were in the spiritual world with Krishna, and then we came down to the material world, or sideways, or pierced through the dimensional, whatever, the black hole in space, to come into the material world, whatever way we came. So because of the differences in the time factor, like time is relative, and material time is material time, in the spiritual world, there ain't no material time. So basically we were gone, or we have been gone from the spiritual world for no time. That may come as a shock to all of you. Although it's been a long time in this lifetime, a long time in many lifetimes, but we've been gone for no time. That's amazing if you actually think about it. We've been gone for no time because there's no time in the spiritual world. So for all intents and purposes, we haven't been. We're not gone. We're not gone. We're not here for all intents and purposes. And that may appear to be a little psychotic. We're not here. You know, I'm not sitting in this room. I'm not behind my computer. I'm not talking to any of you. I'm not, what else? I'm not in this house. I'm not in America. And you say, well, we're going to call 911 on you, Maharaj, because you're really disconnected. You know, we call this cognitive dissonance. And so, yes, on one level, I am here because that's where my consciousness is. But you can travel at the speed of the mind. If my mind is fixed on Govardhan, I'm there. And if my body is at Govardhan and my mind is not fixed in Govardhan, my mind is fixed on, let's say, Fiji, that's where I am. So you are where your mind is. Savai Manak Krishna Padara. That's why you have to fix your mind on Krishna. Kabehama He Rabo Sri Vrindavana. And the mind is Vrindavan if one's Krishna conscious. So wherever you are is Vrindavan. Of course, that was a statement made to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. But we can also say that about His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that wherever he was, or in his pastimes, that place was Vrindavan, that place was the spiritual world. And that Prabhupada said the temples of the Krishna consciousness movement are Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world, or Vrindavan. And the deities. So it's a question of the mind. It's a question of what you do with, I'm pointing my brain, of course, which has nothing to do with the mind, but generally we do that, the mind. So it's a question of where you put your mind. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul. The mind is the enemy. The uncontrolled mind is the enemy, and the controlled mind is the friend. And actually, according to our friend Patanjali, that the purpose of yoga is to control the turning of the mind. The turning of the mind. Churning and the turning of the mind. So, anyway, that's very important. So therefore, yoga means to control the mind and senses, manasashtani, indriyani, prakriti, stani, karshati. And then you'll be in Vrindavan. You want to go to Vrindavan? Don't have to get in an airplane. That's just what you're thinking. You can put your mind on Vrindavan. You can put your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Or you can put your mind on the lotus feet of hell, or you can put your mind on whatever you want to put your mind in. Just like I was talking to some devotee today. I don't know if he's listening. Let's see if he's listening, because I don't want to upset him too much. Let me just check to make sure he's not listening so I don't upset him. He is listening, but I'll upset him anyway. So this person's mind is always fixed on Hawaii. He's basically thinking Hawaii. He's always asking me, his guru, the question, can I go to Hawaii? And that's where he's living. Even though his poor guru, is asking him, can you preach Krishna consciousness? And can you preach in New Orleans is where I give him Prabhu Datta Desh. And he says, Guru Maharaj, what about Hawaii? The waves are so beautiful there. The beach, the hula girls in Hawaii. He doesn't use that. He doesn't say that. I mean, I don't want to offend him. So I tell him it's all in the mind, and that's where you are anyway. Get your mind out of there. Fix your mind on the service of the spiritual master. That's the real point. Anyway, so sometimes, hopefully he'll learn one day. So here's another question. Hare Krishna, how do we understand that we are in the spiritual world? Is that where the mind, well, you're in the material world if that's where your mind is. The mind is spiritual, but it's covered with the material mind. Just like we have these different elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Prabhupada describes that the material elements are like a glove that fits on your hand. Now, the glove also has fingers, hopefully, unless you get a mitten, and a mitten only has 2 fingers. But most gloves have 5 fingers. And most of us, or many of us nowadays, because of COVID, we're familiar with putting gloves on. At least I am. I put gloves on before I shake anyone's hand. So anyway, so the glove has 5 fingers. So hand is there, but it's covered by the glove. So the whole point is that one has to uncover the mind. And when you think of Vrindavan, when you actually think of Vrindavan, you're actually uncovering the mind, the spiritual mind, of course. So that's the point. The whole point is Savai Manal Krishna Padara Vindaya. You think of Vrindavan, and then you're uncovering your mind. Your real mind gets a little peep through the hole in the glove. and you're able to see Vrindavan and be in Vrindavan. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's just a change in consciousness. That's all you got to do. It's not that you got to go to some stupid place like Hawaii. You just have to change your consciousness. But people are thinking, if I go here or go there, like in Fiji, for example, they're thinking, if I can go to New Zealand, I will be happy. So they make so many plans to go to New Zealand, or plans to Australia, or plans to America. And then, and people are hankering now, oh, can I go to India? It's nice to go to India, see the holy places. I'm not denying that. But still, you can go there right now. It's just a change of consciousness. Prabhupada said you travel at the speed of the mind. If you think of a place, that's where you are. So if that Roscoe we mentioned before wants to go to Hawaii, he just needs to think of it. But just stay where your stupid body is and serve Krishna where you are. That's the point. I'm actually just teasing it. Anyway. So, yeah, because you can go there. I mean, you want to like ride the surf or something, just close your eyes and dream of the stupid surf. Right? It's a fact. It's a fact. I mean, I can close my eyes and think of so many nonsense things, and that's where my consciousness is at. I don't need to get in an airplane to think of things or see things or experience things. What a useless waste of time. I get in an airplane to serve the Vaishnavas, to give them association. That's why I get in an airplane. Not to see, what am I going to see? If I go to the UK to see Big Ben, some stupid clock, then what's the use of a clock? Or you go to Italy to see the Leaning Tower of a Pizza. I know it's Pisa, it's not pizza. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. What are you going to see? It's really, I just wonder at people so many times. What are you going to see by going somewhere? Sightseeing? Just like I had one disciple who spent like $20,000 to see icebergs in Alaska. She went on this cruise, a cruise boat. This is before COVID. And she went on this cruise, and just to see a big ice cube. Can you imagine that? I can just take you in front of a glass and put an ice cube in the glass, and you can look at it through the side of the glass, and it will look exactly the same as an iceberg. But we have all this expectation that we're going to see something different in this world. We spent billions of lifetimes looking at all the variety in this world and trying to enjoy. I mean, doesn't it come at a certain time that we just say, Hare Krishna? Seen it, been there, done it. I've seen, been, done everything. And what's there to see? The material world, it's just like, it's all an illusion. It's all just like some trick photography. Someone photoshopped it. That's it. I mean, it's just a Photoshop, a fancy three-dimensional Photoshop. That's all you're talking about. Three-dimensional Photoshop that you can smell and taste and touch. That's it. I want to go to the real place. I don't want to be residing in Krishna's computer where he's photoshopping things, making artificial things. Okay, on that happy note, I think we have to end tomorrow night. We are celebrating tomorrow at the same time, same station. We are celebrating Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. And so we'll have an elaborate festival tomorrow. Tomorrow there will be, what will there be? there'll be a class on Lord Nrsingadev, and after the class on Lord Nrsingadev, we are going to have a dance, not by me, don't worry, a dance by one of the most expert dancers in creation from the heavenly planets. And then after that, we will have Abhishek. And after that, we will have a fire sacrifice. Anyway, it's going to be a big program. Tomorrow, same time, same station, beginning, the class will be first. Okay, and that'll be in the temple room. For those of you who are here, you're invited, and those of you who are not here, you're invited to participate virtually. And that's the same thing. If your consciousness is there, you'll be with us. If your consciousness is not there, you won't be with us. It's as simple as that. Just try to understand that.